Welcome to the Average Joe Jiu-Jitsu podcast, episode 18. I am here with Scott Shuttler. Scott is the owner of Extreme Performance Training Systems, also known as EPTS Gym, and is a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu under Chris Jones, who is the founder of Nucleus Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in Norcross, Georgia. Scott is a vegan iron addict and a practitioner of Taichi and Chi-gong, and Scott is a U.S. Navy veteran. You might also remember Scott from episode 3 of the podcast, where we went into great depth and detail into the conjugate method. Scott, thanks for coming back and talking to me again today.
Hey, thank you, man. I appreciate you having me back on.
Awesome. Yeah, it was fun the first time. We're going to make it even more fun the second time. So, but like I said, everybody, if you have any questions about the conjugate method and how it's set up and what it's based on, then please go back to episode 3. And we did a couple hours on that, which was a long conversation on that. But today we wanted to focus on recovery for what we'd say I don't want to use the word older. I want to say the more seasoned athletes of the
more mature,
the more
mature practitioners.
Yes, the 40 plus group. So, Scott, so what are some ideas you were thinking about when we had that conversation about?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just, I think, a lot of times I've noticed particularly, a lot of people that I talk to who are into training, who are into jiu-jitsu and stuff like that. One of the things that comes up quite a bit is they notice, particularly if they're like me, they start doing jiu-jitsu a little bit later. I started when I was almost 44, but I had a really good strength foundation. But even when I started, I noticed that my lifts went down, my strength went down, and that just, it comes the idea that you really can't serve two masters. Right. I mean, if you think you're going to become a powerlifting champion and an IBJJF champion simultaneously, it's just not going to happen.
No way.
So, and particularly like, the younger crowd, the guys that are training a really high level, I think of people like Dante Leon and stuff like that, who crush it in the gym and they're training hard all the time. They've got different recovery abilities than somebody who's doing jiu-jitsu in their, early mid 40s, 50s, even 60s. So we have to be a little bit smarter with how. It doesn't mean we can't train hard. We just have to be smarter about how we train. And, I think a couple of guests that you've had on recently, Josh Settlage and Joel Blanton, both of them were talking about, Josh made a great comment about how, training frequency, how you should train as much as you're able to recover from. And I remember Joel talking about, recovery being, one of the key factors that's often overlooked. And I just really liked and appreciated those comments, because in Joel's, kind of in our age. I know Josh is a little bit younger, but but he's a little bit more seasoned, like us.
Yes.
So you definitely feel it, I mean, the fact of the matter is we don't bounce back, after a hard training session like we used to. We don't, we don't recover easily. We require, more sleep. We require better focus on nutrition. We require smarter training, and it can be, you can really shoot yourself in the foot if you think you're going to get in there and just crush heavy squats and heavy deadlifts every week. And you're going to go roll, 30, 60 minutes, hard rounds, every day, it's just not going to happen.
No.
And it doesn't mean we can't train every day. It means we have to be smart about the intensity of our training sessions. It means we got to be smart about when we push into the weights. It means we got to be smart when we take those harder rolls and when we turn it up a little bit on the mats, and we got to know when to dial it back. And a lot of that comes with just accepting the fact that we don't recover, like somebody younger, and that we got to stick the ego in the back pocket, and not compare ourselves to the 20-year-old training partner, Yeah,
no, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, even like when I was talking to Carl a couple of weeks ago, Carl Bravik, he doesn't even lift weights, and he still limits his hard rolling to two, maybe 3 days a week, for recovery purposes. So he'll go in the other days and he'll just drill or, not train as hard, but he sort of saves it up, and I found, I don't remember if we talked about this last time. I don't think we did, because when we talked last time, I was barely getting back into jiu-jitsu. So my lifts were actually, hold on a second. Let me let my dog out of the room again. Hold on. Yeah. Sorry. So my lifts were actually like much higher than they are right now. Like,
I remember you were kicking things back up. Yeah.
Yeah. I was really, like, during the pandemic, as I was just lifting weights, I was getting my loads up higher to closer to where they used to be. Not as high as they were when I'm in my 30s, but much higher than they are right now. I'll tell you that. Yeah, the going back to jiu-jitsu and really starting to train again, multiple days a week, it smashed my lifting. It really did. I'm down to like lifting 2 days a week, which feels manageable. I almost feel like maybe I could get a third day in, but the strength levels are not the same in certain lifts. I mean, like things like pull-ups, I can still do pull-ups, like 10 pull-ups. So I can still, do multiple push-ups, but it seems like my max, like the stuff that really taxes your central nervous system, those are the kind of lifts that went down. Like that's where I feel it.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I think it's the, I mean, we talk a lot about conjugate, last time I was on, because it's a training method, we're both very familiar with and both kind of subscribe to. And I think, one of the reasons, maybe same reason as you, but one of the reasons I like it so much is there is so much variability as far as the programming goes. I think it's perfect. It's a perfect way to train, for people like us who we want to get in the gym, we want to train regularly, we want to, working with jiu-jitsu. It's something that you can adjust on a weekly microcycle. We don't have to block out these long, progressively, heavier, blocked out training cycles. And the thing that, the max effort method, for instance, I think that's one of the things, you just made a comment about the central nervous system, going and trying to crush those really heavy deadlifts and those really heavy squats. I just don't think that's in the cards a lot, if you want to go and you want to get really hard rolls, because you need recovery time, from that. And even when if you were just powerlifting, you still need a good, 2 or 3 days in between those max effort sessions for your body to recover. So the idea that, you're going to go hit a max effort deadlift on Monday and then go roll on Tuesday hard, you're going to be feeling it. It's not something that you're going to be able to recover from and perform really well, especially if you try to do it weekly,
Right. And I agree. And I actually have gotten to the point where I don't do singles anymore. I don't do anything below a triple now. And I try to stay around fives, because I feel like it's like, and even when I do that, like, let's say I'll pull a triple, I pulled like a triple or a five with trap bar deadlifts last week for my max effort lower body. And it was challenging, but it wasn't like a real max effort. And so I lifted it out. I was like, I could build on that later, and it's not going to destroy my central nervous system, and it's still a decent amount of weight, so that I know my strength still at a certain range that it's there. I mean, I don't have to kill myself.
And you still have metrics of strength improvement there. Like say we, one of the things that I like to do on the max effort day is I like to have people work up to a triple or a five. Like you, I'm hanging around fives a lot more myself. I like to have people work up to a triple or a five, but I like to tell them, keep a rep or two in the tank. Don't make it a grinding, I want to see that triple, or I want to see those five. I want every rep to be the same speed. Right.
Nice.
I want you to own every single rep. I don't want to see like, 3 solid, 4, 5, man. Push, get it. Yeah. Because that's still a little bit too much strain for what I'm looking for.
Right.
But if we do a low box, a low box safety bar box squat, right. And you go to a 5 and you own that 5 reps, you kill it. And you're like, dude, I could have got 7 or 8. Perfect. Next time we come back to it, you're going to try to break that by 5 or 10 pounds. And you know what? You got stronger. You don't always have to test your strength with a 1 rep max, to show strength increases. If we add 5 to 10 pounds to that low box safety bar box squat every single time you come to it, with reps that you're owning, and eventually maybe the 4th, 5th, 6th time you come to it, and then those reps are starting to slow down. Well, we just got, months, we just got 4 or 5 months worth of that exercise before it really started having a deleterious effect on your central nervous system.
Right.
You made progress. It might not be the same as crushing that 1 rep max all the time, but you're training for jiu-jitsu. You're not training to be a power lifter.
Yeah. I mean, I think I used to do a lot of 1 reps, but I think that was more ego than anything else. I think that was me just trying to lift as much as I could. And
it's fun.
And it's fun. It is fun. It is fun. Doing 100 maxes is fun. And it doesn't take a lot of energy as far as doing a set of 10, kind of thing, or 15.
Oh yeah.
And so, it is more fun. And maybe, you're a person who, has a certain type of, what do you call it? Fast twitch or slow twitch,
Sure.
genetic makeup that makes you, you're just better at doing max effort lifts than you are to do endurance type or repetition. And it's just more fun. But yeah, I got to a point where I was like, this is just too much. It's just burning me out. It's destroying my body. I got to, figure out a way to still work out effectively as I get older, now that I'm 50. Yes. But still have fun with it and still make improvements or keep myself, feeling as young as possible. And I really don't feel old. I mean, that's the thing about it. It's like or older, I still, when I roll, I feel okay. And I lift and I do all the stuff I do. I don't feel like I'm like falling apart or I'm some old person. No. So it's just when I see myself in the mirror, it's when I feel like I'm old.
The gray hair is popping up.
Or on these videos and stuff. Yeah. But that's when I see it. I'll look at a picture of myself, then I realize how old I am. But I don't feel that way. But so yeah, I mean, what are some other ideas you've had for like max effort work? I've thought about like even like I've been playing around with the idea of like a 10 rep max effort.
Yes.
But then I'm thinking, well, is that more repetition method, or is that going to be too much volume? And am I going to start getting over that barrier?
That falls under the repetition method, because the repetition method is a set of reps with a submaximal weight to or near failure. So when we're talking 10 reps, anything over like 6 or 8 reps or more, I'd consider that more repetition. And why not? I mean, if you're feeling particularly like I just don't feel like going heavy today, why not do a 10 rep set? That's one more record that you can keep track of. And you can cycle it in on the days where you're not feeling like a 5 or a triple or something like that. I do like the idea of no matter how many reps we're going to do per set. I still like the idea of going 90% perceived exertion. I still like saving that rep or two, regardless of if we're going to go for a 10. I think when you take it to the brink and you take it to that grinding max rep, it still can be hard, even though it's not like the same as going out and killing a true 1 rep or a triple or something like that, because we're not going to be, from an intensity standpoint, we're not going to be at 90% or above of a 1 rep max if we're doing a 10. But still, that's a hard effort if you're going to a true 10 rep max. Not only do you have the volume accumulation from the 10 reps, but then if you're taking it to a true max effort, or a true repetition max, that's going to be quite stressful. So I like the idea of keeping a rep or two in the tank, being fresh, owning every rep, and then just doing more weight next time, and that shows progress. So we can have multiple rep ranges that we work in on the quote unquote max effort day. And I realize somebody, that's not max effort. If max effort's 1 rep, but I mean, it's like you gotta keep things in context too. So on the near max day, we'll call it, or the sub max day, whatever. Yeah. But yeah, on that day where we're not doing the dynamic effort work, where we're pushing a little bit heavier weights, I think there's a lot of ways that we could cook it up. And one of the things that I've been experimenting with lately is making the lift variations so hard that I can't use a lot of weight. Like I think last time we talked, if you remember, I was having some issues, dual meniscus issues, where my knees were really killing me. So heavy lifting was out of the equation for a long time. Well, I got on a lot of Ben Patrick's knees over toes training. And dude, knock on wood, my knees feel like $1 million right now. I mean, I'm at about 90-95%. They don't lock anymore. I think they popped once in training. So my knees are feeling great. So one of the things that the knees over toes work had me doing was exploring really extreme ranges of motion that I wasn't used to. But they're also extreme ranges of motion that mimic a lot of the ranges of motion that we encounter in jiu-jitsu. I think of things like a knee cut pass, going knee on belly, penetration step where we're driving that knee hard in front of the toe. So when you start doing split squats and squats like that, it dramatically limits. Like I had to go to body weight variations and regressed variations as I built the strength and the capacity. But now that I can go, flat foot, butt all the way down, arch back and stuff like that, I've been doing some free squats. I'll work those in on my max effort day, buffalo bar, all butt all the way down, hamstrings on the calves, heels flat. That's a variation. And dude, I mean, coming back from that knee injury, a set of 5 at 145 was killer, going all the way down, sitting hamstrings on calves. But that's one more metric. If I do 155 next time I come to that, I'm getting stronger at that lift. So I'll gradually work that up. And I mean, that lift is 1 to 200 pounds under some of my other squat variations, so I mean, there's a great example of how I can minimize the load while still making the effort the same. And that's one of the things, if you think, Louis Simmons always talked about, when he was referring to the max effort method, he always talked about the strain, and he always used the example, like, he'd say something like, the body doesn't know the lift, the body only knows the strain, right? So if it takes you 8 seconds to complete the lift, it doesn't matter if you're doing a low box squat with like 550 pounds or a parallel box squat with 650 pounds. If it takes you 8 seconds to complete each of those reps, it's going to make you stronger. He always say, like, if I got in a fight with that person, I got in a fight with that person, they both beat me up. I don't even know you need to know your names. All I know is I got beat up twice, right? I always like that, so he always talked about, strength being measured in time, not in weight. So if I could find a way to get more out of less weights, why not? And my body feels a lot better. My hips aren't locked up after those squats and things like that. So that's one of the other things, we talked about, you have some different rep ranges you can work in. Try to find a way to make those lifts hard. And I'll tell you what, from a jiu-jitsu standpoint, I think we need to spend that, there's a case to be made for spending some time in those extreme ranges of motion, because when you look at our joint angles during some, jiu-jitsu attacks, during guard, things like that, we're getting into some really deep knee bends, some deep hip bends, and we're getting in some, so why not build strength through those extreme ranges of motion? And I think there's a lot of validity to doing that. And then, man, the body just doesn't feel as trashed as it does, doing a different variation that allows you to use much, much more weight.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, actually, I have my right knees tweaked a little bit, where it's like 99% of the time I don't feel anything. But if you like really smash it and compress it and bend it like a knee slice or whatever, sometimes, or go over, I don't know, you could be breaking guard and coming over the top to go to like reverse ashi or something. Sometimes it'll pop a little bit. And so I'm sort of nervous with it sometimes, and sometimes I'll only enter on certain sides or certain techniques to just avoid that position. But knees over toes guy, that makes a lot of sense. Did you like buy a book by him, or did you just start following his Instagram stuff and doing it?
Yeah, so I actually, it was kind of funny. I mean, I heard his interview on Mark Bell's podcast, like the first time he was on there,
right?
And just coincidentally, my coach Chris comes walking in the gym one day, and we've got a friend, one of his training partners from his academy, this guy Noah. Noah has a torn ACL and a torn meniscus, I believe, in one knee, and he's had some surgery on his other knee, and he got turned on to Ben's stuff probably about 3 or 4 months before I did. And Chris came in and he was like, man, I saw Noah over at Helix, which is another one of our sister academies. He said, I saw Noah over at Helix, and he said, man, he was walking like you couldn't even tell, like Noah had that walk like you knew something was wrong with his knees.
Right.
And he goes, he looks great. And I said, well, what's he been doing? He goes, that knee guy stuff or whatever. So I messaged Noah, and Noah's like, yeah, man. He goes, I've just been working like the ATG split squats. I've been working the single leg work. He goes, I got the, I've been doing the animal foot, or the monkey foot contraption and all that stuff. So I started talking to him, and I started following more of Ben's stuff. I actually had one of my clients who signed up for Ben's programming. So we just started, we've been working it in-house, and I just gave, so Ben's got 3 main progressions of his programming. He goes from the 0 program, which is body weight exercises, the easiest you could do it anywhere. Basically all you need is a wall, in a flat surface. Then he's got the dense program, which is where you're building volume, with some of his indicator lifts. And then he's got his standards program, which is where you're hitting very specific, like he's got targets based on your body weight, what type of percentage you should be hitting on certain lifts, right? And he teaches you how to cycle through those programs and stuff. But after doing about 6 or 7 weeks of just the 0 program, body weight only for my lower body, my knees felt amazing. Felt amazing. And like I said, after seeing our friend Noah getting back to doing jiu-jitsu and stuff like that without issues with his knee when he hadn't been rolling for like months, that was a testimony right there.
I'm all over it.
Yeah, it was awesome. And like I said, he gets you into these ranges where, the common fitness, popular fitness belief would be, no, that's bad for your knees. Well, it's bad for your knees because we never go into those positions, and once you start training, and his whole idea is we're going to build strength without pain, so we need to regress this exercise to where you can get into that position with no pain, and then we build from there. And I think that tends to be a lot of our problems, is we tend to progress stuff too quick because it's all about how much weight can I get on that squat bar? How much weight can I get on that deadlift bar? Well, why don't we go back and perfect movement and get really, really strong and build the capacity and then start loading? Let's get the human movement down first and then let's start loading it, and it really kind of changed. And it's stuff that I've always known about, I've been following Charles Poliquin forever. Poliquin was talking about this stuff forever. He just not in the same way that Ben approaches it, where Ben turned it into a system. For Poliquin, it was like, hey, if you do a split squat, your knee should be way out over your toe. That's a split squat. It's not a lunge. It's a split squat. There's a difference, and he had talked about it forever. And even back then I was a little leery, like, I don't know, man, you hear bad things about it, but it totally changed. It totally changed how I view lower body training. And I particularly think when I start looking at sports, dude, athletes create massive amounts of force with their knee way out over their toe on the ball of their foot. If you watch somebody do a true Hindu squat, that's a perfect knee over toe, rolling up on the balls of the feet, driving the knees forward. And these wrestlers were doing hundreds of repetitions all at once. If that was a contraindicated position, there would be this massive, epidemic of people blowing out their knees doing Hindu squats, and you just never hear about that. And they probably have some of the strongest, tendons and ligaments in their knees out of any, athletes you would study. So I think there's a lot to it, but it's not diving into it too hard. It's taking the time and allowing the joints, allowing the connective tissue to adapt, to the ranges of motion before you start loading it.
Awesome. And so the Zero program's available on his website or something like that?
He talks a little bit about it, you should be able to get enough, like, from, he gives out so much free information.
Really just go to his website or something?
Yeah, but he does, his coaching program is only $49.50 a month. So you can sign up, for a month or two and get all the programming, but he also offers, like, video feedback and things like that. Like he'll analyze your videos. It's a heck of a deal for $50 a month, but like, you could sign up for a month or two and get all the programming, it's all right there the minute you log in.
I'm going to check it out. That sounds like a plan. Because I mean, like I said, my knees aren't terrible, but if I can strengthen them back up now, I don't have to worry about it. That's even better.
I think just having that peace of mind, like you said, especially like for me, when I like you, I go into certain ashigrami, things like that, certain ways you would grapple with your legs, that you get that lateral pressure on the knee, some things in half guard and stuff like that, lockdown sweeps, things like any time where you got that sort of torque on the knee. I could never do it. Now I'm back to doing all that stuff. And that's a big part of my game. So
yeah. I got to be careful with some, like when people do lockdowns on me, if I'm inside their half guard, like on my right leg, I really got to be careful. Sometimes I'll just regress and back up and go a different direction just to get out of it. One other thing you brought up, I can't remember his name. His name's Alex. I can't remember his last name, but he's the Alpha Destiny guy on YouTube. You ever heard of him? He's a conjugate guy. You check him out. He's an interesting character. Yeah. I bought his book. It was actually pretty good, but it was interesting the way he did it. He does like these 2 full body workouts a week, and they're extremely freaking high volume and long. And I was like, I'm not going to do that, but he had some ideas too about less weight, making lighter weights feel heavy. We're getting more out of lighter weight. And I thought about that too. I was like, that's a good idea. Things like doing like he does the belt squat, but he does it the way I have to do it, with like the dip belt and the plates and the whole thing. Or like good mornings and things like that are, you obviously cannot use as much weight, but you can still get a good stimulus out of them. And you actually posted something this morning where you will rotate the squat one week, the deadlift the next week, and the good morning the week after, and then go back to the squat. So do you feel like when you do that your strength stays up on each particular lift, like they all just basically help each other? And
that's actually like that's not my thing. That's actually that's a Louis thing. He would up and again, things change so much up there. Like I know a while back, like when his lifters were just killing the squat, their max effort rotation was squat, deadlift, good morning, deadlift, you know, because they were trying to bring the deadlifts up. So,
Mhm.
you know, a lot of it has to be like if you're just killing the deadlift and your squat needs to be brought up, you might want to do a couple more squat workouts, you know, but just doing that squat, deadlift, good morning rotation, that's kind of nice because, you know, it kind of breaks out those movements evenly, and you don't have to, you know, if you just want to push like that one hard set, then you don't have to worry about trying to beat that lift like the next week. You know, like a lot of times when we start out, you know, like we'll say go 2 to 3 weeks of a low box squat, then go 2 to 3 weeks of a deficit deadlift. You know, that way you're cycling through lifts a little bit more frequently. It's a nice change in stimulus. And I just feel like it keeps it a little bit fresher. And again, those 3 lifts all for the most part train the same muscles. So again, a strain is a strain. It doesn't matter if it's a bent knee good morning. It doesn't matter if it's a conventional deadlift, or it doesn't matter if it's a low box squat. You know, you're really going to stimulate the same muscles. So strain's a strain, man. You know, and by working those good mornings in there, you know, it's going to really lower the load that you're able to use, which is kind of nice because, like you just mentioned, you know, get more out of the lightweight, right? Find that harder movement. So I really like doing that. And actually, you know, there was a while where I was alternating where I'd squat and deadlift really heavy. So I would go squat, good morning, deadlift, good morning over a 4-week cycle. You know, so I'd once a month I'd have my really heavy squat, my really heavy deadlift, and then I intersperse those good mornings in there where it was almost like a deload, but it wasn't because I was still pushing the good morning hard, but it limited the amount of, you know, so like if my squat variation was in the mid 4s, my deadlift variation was like around 5, my good morning variations were going to be in the mid 2s, you know? So, I mean, the even though it was still a heavy effort, the amount of load I was actually moving was, you know, was like half of what I was doing in those
Exactly.
heavier workouts.
And that goes back to the central nervous system issue.
Exactly.
It makes it helps your central nervous system recover because you're not using nearly as much weight, or even using like a front squat, something, or a zercher, something that and a zercher is an awesome grappling squat.
It's a great exercise. It's a great exercise.
But you can't use nearly as much weight. So it's great. So it actually helps you with that as far as more of like a recovery type week.
And then you're still squatting and pulling every week because on the dynamic effort day, you're still doing your speed squats and or your speed deadlift, you know? So, I mean, you're still getting the main movement once a week, you know, so.
And your accessories too. You know, you're still doing those same movements, like the opposite of whatever you went crazy on.
Exactly.
You know, yeah. So there was something else I was going to say, and then it popped out of my head. I don't remember now. That sucks. Oh, we remember what it was. No, the idea of the squat, deadlift, good morning. I like that it's just a basic rotation, just because, like you're saying, if you're trying to get better at your squat, well, I'm not a power lifter anymore, so I don't care. So for me, for jiu-jitsu, I think it's a good way to do it, as far as, you know, just hitting each one of those movements and treating them as movements and just cycling them through. And I've done the 2 to 3 week. Actually, recently did it, and sometimes I have really good experiences with it. But sometimes I'm like, you know, I'd like to rotate, you know, more frequently. I mean, my personal thing is I really like the variety of getting to change things up each week and, you know, play around.
And then you can also fill in the gaps on the supplementary exercise, right? Because the way that I lay out my training day is that you've got the main movement. So on max effort day, it's the max effort lift. Then you have the supplementary exercise, which is like, it supports it's a cousin or it's a sibling to the max effort lift. And then the accessory stuff is mostly the single joint stuff that we're going to use to strengthen weak points. So if you do a deadlift, say, as the max effort movement, let's do some sort of squat or split squat variation as the supplementary exercise, and vice versa. If we're going to squat for the max effort lift, let's do some sort of pull or hinge, you know, like a good morning, or we're just not pushing it to a heavy 3 or 5. We're going to do like maybe 2 to 3 sets of 6 to 8 or something like that. Heavy, you know, but not. And you can track those lifts as well, you know, so that when you cycle those in, you can break those records over time, whether it's a 6 or an 8 or whatever. So, man, I mean, it provides like endless opportunity for progress, because you can always have something fresh coming in. You can always, and I like coming back to something after 4 or 5 weeks and then trying to beat it by 5 pounds. You can't do that. Of course you can do that.
Right.
You can beat that lift by 5 to 10 pounds. If you're smart with your exercise selection, if you're smart with your load selection, if you're doing, you know, a training max versus doing like an all out snorting ammonia, getting psyched up, you should have endless, you know, short of like getting sick, you should have endless, you know, endless progress.
Micro plates too. I bought a set of micro plates. Those things are awesome. Little tiny ones. You can always add something. I mean, even a chain.
I always loved how Louis talked about how smart his bench press specialist George Halbert was. Him and Kenny Patterson. He said they would always hold up the 2.5s and they'd say, "This is the plan." They called the 2.5s the plan, and the plan was to break your max effort lift by 5 pounds. It doesn't matter if you feel like you got 25 more pounds. You break it by 5 pounds and then come back to it. Come back to it. Don't just cash it all in on that workout. Give yourself room to grow in it, because 5 pounds is a PR, you know, and he would always say, people would say to him like, "Oh, what's 5 pounds?" He'd say, "Well, 5 pounds a month in a year, that's 60 pounds, you know," and he goes, you might even pay me for that kind of progress, you know?
Right.
And people just don't think about this stuff long-term, you know, that's what drives me nuts about this fitness industry, especially the time of the year we're getting into, closing in on the new year and stuff like that. 12 weeks to this, 10 weeks to that, you know, progress overnight. It's like, no, man, this is like slow, steady, long-term. We're doing this for life, you know?
And 60 pounds is a lot. I mean, you think about it, let's
60
just say,
pounds in a year is massive.
let's say you're benching 225 and then you're benching over 275, you know, by the end of the year. That's
massive.
Huge.
That's massive.
Yeah.
And it gives your tissues time to adapt. You can certainly get stronger faster, but how fast are you going to burn yourself out, or how fast are you going to get injured? The connective tissues take longer to adapt, you know, and that's another thing people don't factor in. And I think, you know, we saw this big boom in the power. I really quit following powerlifting myself, but you know, there was this big boom a while back of these massive raw lifters that were coming in and just killing it. And just like every month they were getting stronger. Then they get injured and you never hear from them again, you know? You know, gone are the days of the Ed Cones who have like 20, 25-year careers. Louis Simmons, a 30, 35-year career. You know, these guys are coming out and killing it for like a year and a half, and then they're gone because they get an injury or, you know, whatever. It's like, I want longevity.
Right.
You know, I want to be able to train like this till I'm 70, 80, you know, 90, God willing, 100 years old.
Yeah, exactly. And that's my goal too, at least 100. You know, but that's it. It's like, it's just doing it to keep yourself in one piece and keep yourself healthy, you know, and that's the difference, you know, when you have to change your expectations and your mentality and your reasons why. Your why is really important. Like, why are you doing it?
We say, I don't got outlift you, I got to outlast you.
That's right. That's right. But it's about the why for me. I mean, that's my thing. It's like, why am I doing this? It's because I want to keep myself in one piece, because I want to do jiu-jitsu, because I want to feel like that I'm not broken, you know?
Yeah, you want to feel good after jiu-jitsu, man. You want to make progress. You don't want to go in and roll and be like, man, I got to watch that shoulder. I got to watch that knee. I got to watch that, you know?
Yeah. I mean, but even just in life in general, I just want to be able to feel like, you know, that I feel good. I don't want to feel like I'm broken, you know? And it is, and there's even studies. It was a gentleman's name, and I can't remember his name. He was on Joe Rogan. I was just flipping through YouTube yesterday and I saw him come up, and I have to go back. And when I find it, I will I might be able to figure it out if I go on here really quick. Just give me 1 second. I'm sorry, but it was Peter Attia.
Yeah.
Attia. And
Peter Attia, I think.
Attia. And thank you for correcting me on my bad pronunciation. Tia, he did some studies. I have to go back and look at it. I want to check it out. He was doing some studies about longevity. And he was talking about, you know, you should have strength training involved in it. You should have cardio, you know, like to get your cardio up to, like, you know, 4 times a week for 45 minutes, you know, with a certain decibel above that, you know, all those things like add years to your life. And, you know, and that's my thing. You know, I mean, I do it for jiu-jitsu, obviously, so I can try to hang with the young guys, but I mean, it's just for my longevity. I just want to live as long as possible.
Yeah, and cardiovascular is so overlooked. Like aerobic energy system training is so important, and it's so linked to longevity. Joel Jamieson is another one who talks a lot about, because Joel's really big into tracking HRV. He's got a great device that tracks HRV and stuff. And he's talked about, he's seen studies where people that are more aerobically fit with higher HRVs, I think they have something like up to, 7 more years of longevity, based on studies or something like that. I mean, that's massive, man.
Right.
That's massive. I mean, you can't go out and do 3 to 4 low intensity aerobic sessions, get your heart in that, 130, 150, 3, 4 times a week. That literally requires zero. That's like a recovery workout. You can't go do that. I mean, then longevity is not that important, apparently, right? I mean, that's something easy to do.
That's the kind of thing, and that's what I'm talking about. I mean, I even have a bike in my garage now, so it's like, it's like I have no excuse. Like I said to you, we were talking off the air for everybody that's listening, and we were talking about things like adding in like neck harness training and grip training and things like that are like they take hardly any recovery.
Throw 10. Yeah. Throw a 10 or a 20-pound weight vest on and go for a walk. Put a podcast in, your heart, like I throw a 20-pound weight vest on, I go walk for 30 minutes. My heart rate's right up around 130, 135. If you're doing a nice brisk pace, you don't have to go out and run and have that impact on your joints. Get your heart rate up into that aerobic training zone. It's easy to do, man.
Yep. I did it all last year, but I was just saying that, like doing the things like the neck work and the grip and all that, it's really, my only excuse is laziness, because it's all right here. I have it all right here in my house. I just got to go do it. And, so you were saying that you'll add it in between clients, you're just at the gym, you just grab stuff like your neck harness or whatever, or how did you pop out?
Yeah, that's simple, man.
Hold on. We did an interruption. Oh, you're back. Okay.
Yeah, it froze up a little bit. Yeah, it froze up a little bit. Yeah, but I well, because like I was telling you, I mean, I'm in the gym every day. I'm in the gym 6 days a week. So it's very easy. Like if I've got to spare, 15, 20 minutes to go knock out a few sets of grip, a few sets of neck, you recover from that stuff really fast. You can do some extra ab and lower back work. I can jump over if my back's a little stiff. I can jump over, hit a couple sets of reverse hypers. Louis talks a lot about these mini, like 10 to 20 minute workouts, to work on weak points and to build capacity and stuff like that. That stuff takes, you can recover in, he says like 12 hours, you should be recovered from that type of work. So that's stuff you can do. And that's where we can build, it doesn't always have to be max effort and dynamic effort. Think about this, man. You probably have these guys at the academy that come in and they used to be pretty fit, and they, jiu-jitsu, I want to do that because, I'm going to work on my fitness. I'm going to learn some self-defense. It's something cool to do. And they're not really lifting, right? They're coming in, they're doing jiu-jitsu, and that's a hell of a workout for a little while. Then they start getting a little, efficient, their jiu-jitsu starting to get good. They've been training 6, 12 months. And then they really need something to maybe start enhancing their fitness. That person could literally take a kettlebell, do a full body kettlebell circuit 3 times a week, and think about how much benefit they're going to get from doing that. They don't need to go get a barbell and do deadlifts and all that stuff. They get a 16-kilo kettlebell and they do some goblet squats. They do some clean and presses. They do some snatches and some swings, 20 minutes, 3 times a week. Think of the boost they're going to get in their fitness and their strength. I mean, they're going to be a different person, in a month or two when you roll with them. You're going to see improvements in strength. You're going to see improvements in capacity. That's not hard to do, So, I mean, and I think that's the other thing we got to look at. People like you and me, we're used to the barbell, the squat rack, the heavy stuff like that. But the average Joe who's doing jujitsu, they might not need all that, man. They might only need to go grab a couple kettlebells and like a pull-up bar, and they'd have enough stuff right there to make massive improvements in their fitness. There's this idea that, you got to go train like, and honestly, I think one of the worst things you can do as a jiu-jitsu practitioner is to take a straight bar, throw it across your upper back and do squats. I think it's horrible for the shoulders. I think you're externally rotating that shoulder. You're loading up that joint, so if you don't have access to like a belt squat or a safety bar or something that's going to spare the shoulders, it's like, I would rather wear my shoulders out on the mats than doing a squat, where I could find a better way to train my legs and still make my, I could do pistol squats. I could do kettlebell front squats. I could do goblet squats. There's so many other ways I could squat and train my legs than just having to be a bro and throw that barbell on my back.
Right.
So we have to look at, we've only got so much mileage on our joints. Where do we want to put that mileage? Our fitness should be enhancing us. It shouldn't be competing with the sport that we train, for that same kind of mileage on our body. I want my treads right now to be on the jiu-jitsu mats, not in the squat rack. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's like actually at the gym where I train, We have a rope to the ceiling, and we have pull-up bars, we have kettlebells, we have soft plyo boxes. And I'm thinking about starting to throw, like, we get done with training and then we sit around, we talk or whatever, you have some time. I'm thinking about starting to throw in like a 10-minute little thing at the end.
Yeah,
Do
why
some
not?
rope climbing and a couple pull-ups and some kettlebells, and just do a really quick little, put it like together, like just a quick 10-15 minute little thing, and do it 3 times a week. It just says extra GPP.
And look how much, even if it was 10 to 15 minutes,
Mhm.
2-3 times a week,
Mhm.
multiply that by 52 weeks.
Mhm. It's a
How
ton of
much
work.
extra training did you get that year? And that's what
Yeah.
we got to look at. We
Mhm.
got to look at our total volume,
Mhm.
not just that one workout. We got to look at what are we doing over the course of the year.
Mhm.
Adding a tiny little bit
Mhm.
multiplied by 3 times a week, multiplied by 52 weeks a year,
Mhm.
that's massive
Yep.
improvements in our total volume. And people just don't think like that. And
Yeah.
when you do, you don't need to. It's like we talked about earlier. It's about putting that ego in the back pocket.
Mhm.
It's about making small, sustained, continuous progress.
Mhm.
And when you do that, man, the body adapts, the joints adapt, you're giving the tissues time to adapt, and it keeps us training more frequently. And that's what we want. I would rather
Yeah.
train frequently
Mhm.
than train hard. You know what I'm
No,
saying?
that makes sense. Exactly. That makes a ton of sense. And, for us, a hobby says that too. He said that on this interview with Joe Rogan. He was talking about, don't do your max, do half of what you can do and just do it every day. And,
Exactly.
within a year, you'll have, X amount more volume than the person who did it one day, maxed himself out, had to recover for 4 days and couldn't work out.
Exactly.
So, yeah, and it's the same thing. Same
Well,
exact thing.
how do you get better at jiu-jitsu? More mat time. Well, if you're
Train.
just going, if you're
Mhm.
going in one day and just
Mhm.
going level 9,
Mhm.
all out death match with somebody,
Mhm.
when's the next time you're going to be able to roll again? You might need a couple days off from that,
Mhm.
But if you
Mhm.
go in and you're smart about your rolls, you
Mhm.
work on some technique, you do some
Mhm.
positional stuff. Yeah, maybe you take that one hard roll, but then
Mhm.
if you're going to do, like we usually do, about 5 or 6, 5 to 7 minute rolls a session, I've got enough gas in me where I could go hard that one
Mhm.
guy, that
Mhm.
hard
Mhm.
wrestler we got.
Mhm.
I'm going to go hard with him. Then my other partners, I'm going to focus on technique stuff. I might do some
Mhm.
positional stuff. I might do, you don't need to go level 9 every single
Nope.
roll that you do,
Nope. I just don't. I mean, I don't. I save that up. I go hard, like, you know, 2 max 3 days a week, where I'll
Yeah.
do, some really hard rules. But other than that,
And you're
it's
training
like,
jujitsu, what? You said like 5-6 days a week?
mhm. Yeah, I'm
I
training
mean,
every day again. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
That's
just don't
awesome.
train. I don't train on Sundays, but usually, there was availability to do it. So it might happen. Who knows? But, but that again, you have to be smart. You have to, and I'm no expert, but I know from personal experience that, you have to learn how to, manage your recovery, eat correctly,
Yes.
get enough water, sleep. Sleep's huge.
Sleep's massive.
I finally convinced myself of that. Like, I didn't sleep last night very well, and I didn't get a lot of sleep, and I can feel it today. I felt it this
Yeah.
morning when I went and trained. I mean, I did okay, but I didn't have a whole lot of energy. It didn't go all crazy when we were rolling live and everything. And it's like I was supposed to work out tonight. I lift, and I was like, I think I'm gonna do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'll do it tomorrow after I get 9 hours of sleep tonight, and then I'll be
Yeah.
fine. And I can go train tomorrow, and then I can go lift.
Do some stretching, go to
Mhm.
bed, get a good night's sleep, recover, and then you're
Yeah.
going to be better. Your training's going to be better tomorrow than if you say, "No, man, I got to get those lifts in tonight." Really? Is that really
Exactly.
going to help you?
Exactly. Have you ever done that? Have you ever started to work out and just say, like, this isn't happening today? I don't feel like it. And you walk away and you come back the next day and you have a great workout.
Absolutely. And I'll use that. That's why I'll use my warm-up sets.
Mhm.
If the bar doesn't feel right,
Mhm.
if 95 pounds doesn't feel right, you know
Mhm.
what? Today might not be that day. Maybe I'm going to
Yep.
do some body weight squats. I might go drag a light sled. I might throw the weight vest on, go for a walk. I
Mhm.
might do some Indian clubs.
Mhm.
I might do, that I'm going to focus on restoration today. And
Mhm.
then I'll save it for tomorrow or the
Right.
next day.
Right.
And that's the same with jiu-jitsu, man. There's sometimes I'll go in, I'll be like, dude, It's just not happening today. Well, you know what? I'm going to play guard. I'm going to work on deep half today. I'm just going to work on control from the bottom. You know, I'm going to try to move as little as possible, you know, and it's not, you know, and I look at it like this. How can I get something out of this role without worrying about, you know, sweeping and coming up to a dominant position? What could I do where I can conserve my energy a little bit? What maybe work on my defense today and still get something out of it, you know, without going all out. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'll go in and I'll do like, you know, having, you know, like I'll focus on, like sometimes I'll focus on a principle instead of a technique. I'll say like, I'm going to focus on getting inside position today. I'm going to focus on getting to, you know, single leg X as many times as I freaking can. Or I'm going to, you know, or I'm going to let somebody mount me and I'm going to focus on my elbow escapes getting to single leg X to a heel hook. Or, you know, or I'll say, take my back. And, you know, like, I don't know. Did you see that? Did you see that that video Gordon put out on BJJ Fanatics, like a commercial for that body triangle escape he was showing? It's on Instagram.
I
saw
didn't
that.
see it, but
I saw that and I looked at it for a while, and then I started going to the gym and I started people on my back, and I was like, go ahead and do a body triangle, and started working with it. I'm still doing it. And I'm starting to figure it out, but I just do things like that too. Like on the days I don't feel like going like crazy, you know, I figure out a thing I want to work on and just work on that thing.
Well, and that's like how you get better, you know. And I mean, I'm still new. I've only been training about 3 years, but you know, it's like I know enough jujitsu now where I know things I should be doing. I know things I should be working on. But it's like if I just go in and free roll all the time, that's really not doing anything, you know. I'm not really focused on building skill. Yeah, there's some things I'm going to get out of that, but I've got a great training partner, Scott Locker. We were working, our coach, one of our coaches, Ruth, she teaches one of our morning classes. We were going over, it was a sweep from, I think it was like it was a butterfly guard pass or something like that. And, you know, after we did our drills and our techniques, you know, he was my drilling partner. So he's my first roll. And he goes, hey, do you just want to work from that position? And he's like, if you pass my guard, we reset. If I, you know, or if I, you know,
positional training,
and dude, we spent like a 7-minute roll doing that, and man, we both got a ton of reps, and that was a great roll. You know,
I think you actually get way more out of that than just rolling. To tell you the truth, I think that
absolutely,
you know, that's how Roger Gracie got as good as he did too. When he was living in London, he was only training blue and white belts. He didn't have anybody else really, and so he did situational training, and that's how he, you know. And then when he actually got closer to the tournaments or the big matches or whatever, he went to New York and trained with Enzo and the team. But
sure.
But you know, he did a lot of his training was situational training, and that's how he got so good. He focused on defense and situational training,
skill development. It's skill development, and it's repetition, and it's repetition with real resistance.
Right.
You know, and that's where it's different than drilling. I mean, you drill, 50% resistance. The whole point of drilling is to figure out the nuances. You know, but you've got to have that resistance. You know, and I think a lot of times when we do situational training, the tendency to go balls out and just, you know, it's not there, because you got something you're trying to do and I got something I'm trying to do, and we're focused on those things. It's not like, oh, hey, there's an arm, I'm going to go for a Kimura, you know. It's not like that. It's like my goal is to get past you and your goal is to stop me from doing that. And I think especially for less experienced people like myself and a lot of my training partners, that is I think it's a lot more valuable when it comes to getting the benefit that you get out of the live training and the sparring, you know?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think for anybody, it's very beneficial. I think it's, like I said, I think, well, regular rolling is fun and it's got its place. It's awesome too,
doubt.
but I absolutely have, I mean, for years, I've absolutely believed in situational training, but the biggest
it's
thing,
like, are we competing or are we trying to build skill? We're going to train to learn a skill. It's not about, you know, you tap somebody, you didn't beat that person. It's just training.
It's skill development.
You know, and you got to get out of that. You got to get out of that mindset. Like, I'm trying to beat you by making you tap. Because if you do that, you end up sticking to the 2, 3, 4 things that you do really, really well. You don't start working outside of that and start, you know, and at my level, I need to be trying a whole lot of stuff, learning a lot of different things, and not just saying, hey, that one thing works for me. It's like, I got to learn jujitsu. I got to learn different positions. I got to learn different, you know, passes. I got to learn different, you know.
But at the same time, situational training, I believe good advice that I give out based on my bad judgment in the past. I say I base this on myself. For years, when I did situational training, you'd start with the technique. It doesn't work out because, you know, you just learned it, whatever. The other guy already knows what you're going to do. He's got his own setups in order to defend it. It starts going sideways right away. And then you revert back to your old shit because you want to win. Okay. Yep. So you don't want to like let it go and say, okay, I got smashed and let's just reset and go. You have to be committed to doing the technique you're trying to get and not change for the sake of winning. Yeah. That I think is where you get the most benefit out of situational training, is when you can put your ego aside and you don't care about getting smashed. You don't want to get smashed, but if it happens, it happens.
So if it happens, so what?
So right? What? Exactly. But what I'm saying is that you don't want to revert to other things just for the sake of winning. You want to stick. Yeah. You want to stick with the technique you're trying to develop. And that training came. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I got a friend, Cody, who's a brown belt up in New York. He's a monster. He's really into grip strength. He does the Beyond the Bend podcast.
Okay.
He's a really cool dude. He was telling me one time, I was on his podcast, and he said a while back, one of the things that really progressed his training, he took like a 2-month period, and he said, I'm not going to go for one submission. All I'm going to do is work on, my position, my transitions, no submissions. And he's like, and you can't tell your training partners that's what you're doing. Right. You got to keep that to yourself. And he said he did that. I think it was like a couple months. And he said he experienced a massive improvement in his training because he just let the submissions go, and he just worked on, position. He worked on transition. He worked on control, all these other aspects. He's like, when you just let go of the submission, then it's not even an issue. You're just working through all these other things. And he said he experienced a lot of progress really fast by doing that.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, it's just, you just got to be focused in it. And it can be hard training too. I mean, situational training can be hard.
It can be very hard. Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be light or whatever. It shouldn't be.
Sometimes it's worse because it's like, I'm trying to pass and you're trying to sweep, and that's all we're doing. There's no opportunity to sit there and rest. There's no opportunity to get mount and take a breather. You're going and going and going. Sometimes I find like I get more gas doing that kind of stuff than I do just sometimes during a roll where I can kind of control myself and control my pace.
Yeah. I mean, especially like when you're starting like inside somebody's triangle or something like we did this morning, we did that this morning, we were starting in triangle, and it's like you either escape or you get tapped. So, it's good stuff. So what else about recovery? I mean, sleep's the biggest one. I think
sleep's huge.
Sleep's huge.
And not just sleep, but consistent sleep. It's not like getting 8 hours, but it's getting 8 hours. If you go to bed at 10 and wake up at 6, it's going to bed at 10 and waking up at 6, not going to bed at 12, getting up at 8, going to bed at 10, getting up at 6. Consistency is important.
Yep.
Nutrition's important.
Yeah.
Making sure that you're getting, vitamins, minerals, enzymes, proper hydration, eating enough calorically to recover. A lot of times when people get stuck to a physique goal and they're reducing calories and stuff, they're not getting enough calorically to fuel their training. It's more about making sure that you have enough to fuel and recover from your training, making sure you're just getting enough calorically. Recovery measures outside of, we talked a little bit about using restorative workouts, lighter workouts and stuff like that. Things going, get some blood flow, get some recovery. That's great. Lower intensity aerobic exercise, great. But, other measures like things like contrast showers, ice showers, ice baths, heat, sauna, stretching, massage, a lot of people are into the therapy gun. Man, I got a Theragun about a year ago, and I use it almost daily. Tissue health, stretching, mobility, breathing, just sitting and doing some breathing exercise or meditation or whatever. That's something that's overlooked. People get so antsy and they get stressed and they breathe short from their chest. Just learning how to go back and doing some deep breathing. I've looked a little into Wim Hof and his methods. Really fascinating stuff. There's definitely a lot of, so there's a lot of things that we can do to enhance recovery. And I think, one of the things that Joel Jamieson had talked about, you don't want to do the same recovery measures all the time because the body's going to adapt to them just like it is your training.
Right.
So, you might use some recovery workouts, you might, then if you're really beat up, you might go into some contrast, some hot, cold showers. You might use some sauna, but, to just every day, like, I'm going to go to cryo, then I'm going to go to sauna, then I'm going to stretch, then you don't want to use the same stuff all the time. but I think having an arsenal of recovery measures that you can easily implement, you know, it's great to get a full body massage, but if you got to drive 30 minutes to go see a massage, how often are you going to do that? You know?
Right.
So I think it's having stuff that's easily accessible, something that doesn't require, it's like, well, man, I'm already putting an hour to 2 hours in training every, now I got to put an hour into recovery. Make sure that it's something simple that you can do on a easy basis. It's easily accessible for you, but there's a bunch of tissue therapy, you know, recovery measures and things like that people really should explore and find the things that really help them.
Yeah. I'm trying to find an inexpensive tub for the back patio so I can do ice baths. I found one on Amazon. It's like $60. It's like from Japan. It's inflatable, I think, or it has like a plastic frame to it. And actually somebody else on Instagram is using it, so it might actually work okay, but try to find something. I've even thought about going to like Home Depot and finding like a large trash, like
a 55-gallon, like a big trash thing or something.
Yeah, a big garbage can, and just plastic can.
I've seen people do that.
Yeah,
dude. I know a guy up in Charlotte, North Carolina, who has a gym, and they got they acquired an ice machine, you know, like you know, with the flip up doors. They plug that in, fill that up with water, fill that up with, and they just sit in that.
Yeah, I mean,
like, that's brilliant.
We have one at the gym. I found out this week. We actually have one there at the academy. But my thing is, like, I do things when I can fit them into my busy schedule. So usually if I have the thing at home, that's where I'm actually going to do it.
Sure.
It's like, I'm not going to go train and then do, you know, a 15-minute kettlebell workout. Then I'm going to go, you know, do the ice bath. And I know I'm not going to do it. So, you know, I have to find a way so that it's convenient for me to like put into my schedule so I can throw it in there. And some of those things that it's like doing them, you know, at home, like an ice bath. It sounds like something I want to do at home.
Cold shower is easy. You know, you're going to take a shower anyway. You know, finish with, you know, maybe 5 minutes.
I've done that. I've done that, but there's just something about submerging yourself in ice cold water that is just like, that's got to be a whole different sensation. So, you know, I want to try it. I want to mess with it. What else is there? Well, nutrition, I mean, like you said about like not eating enough, it's like, if you're hungry, just eat. I look at it like that. We're not bodybuilders. It's like, you know.
No. And you got to have a good idea about what calorically you need. Yeah, I don't think you need to count out everything. You know, I think macros is kind of bullshit, you know, I mean, unless you're like a bodybuilder or something like that. But, you know, making sure that you're getting, you know, a good variety of proteins, carbohydrates, and fats, making sure that you're getting vitamins, minerals, and enzymes, and knowing like calorically, like, you know, you can't eat like a bird and go train like a madman. You know, I mean, you've got to have some caloric density and make sure that your training's fueled, and not just that you got enough to get through training, but you've got enough to recover from training as well. And that's something that's overlooked. It's like, am I not only giving myself the energy that I need to train, but am I giving myself the energy that I need to repair and recover post-training?
Yeah. And do I take in enough water to be hydrated? I mean, I think a lot of us are chronically dehydrated. And I think that will affect you in jiu-jitsu or weight training or whatever. I mean, if your muscles can't contract because they're dehydrated, that's going to be a problem. It also would affect your cardiovascular system, as far as I understand. And I think that things like electrolytes, sodium intake, you know, salting your food, you know, all those things are important. You know, I salt my food. I don't have to worry about it. So I just do it.
I got a good electrolyte powder. I just throw in my water and I just sip it during jiu-jitsu training, you know, I mean, and it's just simple things that you can do.
Yeah. I mean, and it's like, in eating, it's like, I try to keep the ingredients down to one, like oats, rice, meat, you know, vegetable, whatever. And I try to do that. I mean, there's some bars that I eat that are like, what are those ones? Like, they're like 3 egg whites, dates, and whatever. You know what I'm talking about? Have you seen those bars? No BS ones or whatever.
Yeah. I can't think of that. Yeah, but there's some good products out there that can make things more convenient. I've got I think the one I've been eating is it's a non-dairy, it's a plant protein bar called No Cow or something like that. Very few ingredients, high protein, tastes good, you know, it's chewy, it's not dry and stuff like that. And that's good to keep on hand if you need, you know, if you're going to be stuck, you can't get a good meal in or something like that. I think that stuff can be very beneficial.
I eat those. I eat them as snacks usually in the evening, because it's something, it's like, it's not that bad for me, and it tastes good. and it gives you sort of like a dessert, you know.
Yeah.
And I eat them too because remember I had that whey allergy, so I can't do like protein powders, most protein
Yes.
powders. So,
Yeah.
but they have egg whites in them for the protein. So I'm like,
Yeah.
perfect, you know.
No issue. Yeah.
Yeah. So I do that. I use pasteurized egg white. Like I'll use like the one, you know, get at Costco and you get the big case.
Yeah.
I use those because you can actually throw those in a smoothie. They're pasteurized. You can drink them right out of the carton.
Yeah.
So, you know,
yeah.
there's nothing. So, you know, so I use that, you know, for extra protein, like with one of my meals. And I'll eat like 2 or 3 times. I'm trying to get to three meals a day. My daughter, who's really into nutrition, has been like jumping my case about that I don't eat twice and I fast. She's like, don't do that. But I do eat pretty good meals, like pretty decent meals. But like I said, I mean, it's like eating fruits, vegetables, you know, low glycemic carbohydrates, or at least carbohydrates that are like single word ingredients if you can. Bread's not as evil as everybody makes it out to be. I like Ezekiel bread myself.
There's better. It's you're not eating.
There's better choices.
Bread, you know?
There's better choices. But I mean, you know,
and there's nothing wrong with a sprouted grain bread like an Ezekiel or
you need a couple slices a week. It ain't gonna kill you. You know what I mean?
People, it drives me nuts when people demonize carbohydrates, and it's like, you know, and then the first thing out of the mouth is always pizza and donuts. It's like, dude, first of all, those are 50% fat and 50% carbohydrate, mainly from processed sugar. Yeah. That's not a sweet potato. You know, that's not a cup of brown rice or wild rice. You know, that is a different animal.
And what are carbohydrates? What's the root word of carbohydrate? Hydrate.
Yeah.
They keep you hydrated, and they're protein sparing. That means your protein's being used for recovery instead of energy.
Yes.
You know, so, you know, it's like all that. Sometimes, you know, I've done the paleo diet, and I ate like that for a long time, and it's cool, but I don't think that grains are like the freaking devil they make them out to be.
They're not evil. You know, it's great if you're trying to sell like a keto book or something like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, geez, I mean, if rice was bad for you, I mean, don't you think we'd see, you know, more fat people in like Japan and China where rice is like Asia, a staple in their diet?
Yeah, in Asia and the whole place. I mean, it is what it is. Or like a potato. A potato's not going to hurt you. You know, you might like sweet potato. You might like a red potato. It doesn't freaking matter.
There's I forgot what book I was. I think it might have been the Blue Zones or something. But there's a small island off the coast of Okinawa where like something like 80% of their calories are this like purple sweet potato.
Yeah,
you know that's like a huge staple in their diet, and these people are some of the healthiest people on the planet.
Yeah, and you can exactly. And it's like, and you could find all kinds of like we tried. My daughter and I tried golden beets. And see, like personally, I won't eat a beet, like a regular beet anymore. I won't do it because it gave me a scare, because like the normal scare they give people. And I ended up getting a colonoscopy over the whole thing. It cost me $1,000. I'll never eat a red beet again. Okay. So everything's fine. It's
a great way to check how regular you are.
Yeah. Everything's fine. But, you know, it cost me a lot of money to eat that freaking thing. So, you know, but no, there's a thing like a golden beet, and they're really good. Just boil them up and eat them. But my point is, you could try different things. You know, you'd be surprised by how many things you like. Like I started eating Brussels sprouts this year. I used to never eat Brussels sprouts, and I love them. Yeah. I love them. So, you know, it's you just got to be willing to try it. Now, I did buy the Gracie Diet book, and the reason I'm going into this discussion is because I bought the book. I've gone through the chart, and I've looked at the pairings. And I basically do the pairings they suggest within reason. There's a couple of no-nos I've done that they say are no-nos, although I don't really feel like they're that big of a deal. Like crushing up some almonds and putting in my oatmeal. You're not supposed to do that. Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm like, okay, whatever. My problem with the whole thing, and the reason why I bought the book, I was listening to Horion on a podcast, and he was saying, oh, it's just about the foods you combine. Like you can't have 2 starches in one meal. In other words, you can eat all the hamburgers you want or all the French fries you want, but you just can't eat them together in the same meal. That's the problem. And I'm thinking, no, that's not the same. That's not the problem. I mean, if you go and eat a bunch of French fries, how do you think you're going to look? Or how do you think your body's going to react to that? That doesn't make sense to me. So I decided I'm going to read the book just to get the whole understanding of what he's saying, and then go from there. And maybe, you know, you and I can discuss it later if you want to or whatever. But I think there's some fallacy in some of that. I
mean, I think nutrition does become overcomplicated. And there was I think it was Michael Pollan. He wrote a book, and I think I watched a documentary that he talked, where he was trying to research, like, you know, what the healthiest way to eat was. And he said, after he looked over all the information, he looked over everything, he was like, here's what I came up with. He said, eat food meaning whole food,
Mm-hmm.
eat food, mostly plants, not too much. He says in the grand scheme of things, because he's looking at health and longevity and stuff like that. He goes, that's what I'm like, man, that's beautiful. That's it avoids dogma. It's rooted in real nutritional science, and it's simple, and that's what people need. Simple.
Yeah.
It's like Jim Wendler said, he's like, he goes, when you're watching like an episode of like My 600-Pound Life or something like that, he goes, when they remove that wall and pull that person out, they're not surrounded by a bunch of banana peels and apple cores,
Right.
They're surrounded by junk food wrappers and fast food boxes and, stuff like that.
Right.
The point being, man, if you just eat, the fewer the steps it takes from the original source to the mouth, the better it is for you, right? How simple is that?
Yep. And I think people know what they're supposed to eat and not eat. It's just personal choices. It's
no, I mean,
what do you want to eat?
Do you want to eat a plain sweet potato, or do you want to throw a whole stick of butter in a coffee?
Right.
I mean, I want the butter coffee. That's awesome.
Have you ever done that? The bulletproof coffee?
No, I was vegan before that kind of came around. So I did try the coconut oil, and it cleaned me out pretty quick.
Yeah. See, I have never done bulletproof coffee. I've never done MCT oil. I've never done any of that. I like my coffee with I put heavy whipping cream in my coffee and a packet of stevia, and I'm good. And I might try monk fruit. I saw that.
Monk fruit's really good.
Mark Sison. I saw him on a YouTube video the other day. He was talking about his diet for a day, and it's really simple. It was like big cup of coffee in the morning, and then he had about 12:30 he had a piece of salmon and a moderate salad, and then in the evening he had a steak and some vegetables and maybe one or two glasses of wine.
That guy's in unbelievable shape, man. I mean, for his age and stuff, he looks great. He's fit.
He's really fit and he works out a lot. And I mean, I don't know if I want to adopt that eating pattern again. That's basically what I did before, but I don't think that would sustain 5-6 days of jiu-jitsu a week, and that's the difference. I really think
energy expenditure.
You have to have
energy expenditure, and carbs are they're it's what the body. It's like it's putting like high octane gas in a sports car. I mean, our body wants to burn carbohydrate. It's preferred to burn carb. In the presence of everything, our body will burn carbohydrate first. It'll burn, wants glycogen. So why would we restrict that if we're trying for physical output? It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's just make smart choices.
Yes.
Eat good foods and make smart choices, and your body will love you for it. And and the thing is too, is people will say, "Oh, carbs this, carb that." Like I said, I won the paleo diet. I lost all that weight. I went from 240 to what I'm 170 now.
Yeah.
And I keep it off eating lots of carbs.
Right. I mean, dude, I'm vegan. Carbs are a staple in my diet.
I know. I'm sure you eat tons of carbs.
But I also look at whole food, like even oatmeal, we'd probably call that a carbohydrate if we're talking about macronutrients.
Yeah, I would.
Still 5 grams.
Yeah.
There's 5 grams of protein.
There is.
There's 5 grams of protein. Broccoli gets 50% of its calories from protein. It's just not dense calories. It's like 9 calories per serving or something like that. So you have proteins, carbs, and fats in pretty much everything that you eat, right? So I try not to get too hung up on the macros, as long as I know I'm getting enough protein to cover my recovery and kind of what I need. I don't get too hung up on how many carbs and all that stuff.
You do like protein powders and all that too, like Green Beret.
I do for training, like around training. I really like it. I really like liquid nutrition around training, just because it's easily digestible. I've got it at the gym usually because I'm going from like jiu-jitsu to lifting to a client. So I love to have that post-workout protein drink right there. But then throughout the day, I'm eating things like tofu, tempeh. I'll eat a little bit of seitan, nuts and seeds, nut butters, quinoa. I do beans, legumes. I get enough food that's got protein in it. That or higher concentrations of protein for plant foods and stuff. I've never. I'm still waiting to waste and wither away like everybody said it was going to happen.
Yeah, I know. But that's the thing. It's like, I'm sure this might actually be an interesting conversation for a lot of people who might listen to this, because like you're giving the vegan side. We're both do jiu-jitsu. We both like to lift weights. We're both active people. We're both in, middle aged or whatever you want to call it. Okay. but it's like the only difference in our diets really is that I eat animal meat and you don't.
Yeah.
That's the only difference,
Yeah.
and those are just personal choices, and we respect each other for those choices. It's like,
Yeah,
whatever,
absolutely.
it's like, it just is what it is. So, but other than that, we eat the same foods. Everything you're describing, like, I mean, I like tofu. I don't eat it all the time. I don't think I've ever had tempeh. But I went through a phase where I was starting to try to eat vegan for a little bit, and I didn't get as far as eating tempeh. I was eating like chickpeas and tofu and beans and things like that for protein sources. But I mean,
Yeah. It's a I know of some people who aren't vegan, but they'll eat more plant-based. Like they'll maybe take like a day a week and they'll eat, plant-based because they feel it helps them with their digestion a little bit better.
Yeah.
They find if they eat, especially like red meat or something really heavy, if they start eating that too often, too much, they just feel it kind of bogs them down.
Right.
Whereas if they take like maybe they eat plant-based all day and then maybe they eat meat at dinner, or maybe they take like a day a week where they go, totally plant-based for that day or whatever, they feel like it impacts their digestion in a really positive way.
And I have done that where I won't eat meat at every meal. I don't do that anymore. I mean, when I was bodybuilding and powerlifting, hell yeah, I ate meat several times a day. Yeah, it's different. Yeah. It's different, but I don't do that anymore. It's like, that there might have meals where I don't have an animal product in it or whatever, and it's fine. It's all good. It's like you said, you're still getting protein from other sources. You can get it from, things like peanut butter and
that's the thing.
All the other things we said earlier.
Proteins, it's the body needs amino acids. It doesn't need meat, because if the body needed meat, I'd be dead.
Yeah, exactly.
It needs amino acids, and you can get those. They're abundant in plants. So you just have to do your homework a little bit. You got to understand, where the sources, and eat some variety and stuff like that. But it's not that hard. It just, but if you're going to eat a healthy omnivorous diet, it still requires a little bit of planning and understanding. I mean, it's not like you just go out and eat, double Whoppers with cheese from Burger King. That's not healthy. I mean, it's not the same as eating a game meat or something like that, or a wild caught fish or something. I mean,
yeah, it's quality. It's the quality of the product you're eating. Exactly. And what you're, I mean, I don't know if I buy into, it's not what it's like the whole, again, going back to the whole combination thing where, I remember Joe Rogan made a comment one time about how, eating meat's okay, but it's when you eat it with like bread or like a burger, that's where you went wrong. And it's like, I don't know. Are you? I mean, does that really happen? I don't know.
I honestly don't understand where that, and I heard that, I even heard that back like early on, and when I was interested in bodybuilding, it was like, yeah, you can eat protein and carbs, just don't eat them together. Eat your fish at one meal and your rice at a different meal or something like that. And I'm like, bodybuilders since the dawn of time have been eating tuna and rice.
And don't they say too that like you eat a carbohydrate by itself and it jacks up your insulin level and all that stuff.
Yeah, remember when that was all the rage, like the paying attention to the GI or what do they call it, the GI index or whatever?
Yeah, the glycemic index.
The glycemic index. That the whole thing was like, if you take a fast burning carbohydrate, you can change the glycemic index of that food by combining it with protein and fat. So combining the foods was, and they were saying that was a good thing to do. Like I remember like if you ate a rice cake by itself, it was very high glycemically, but if you put peanut butter on that rice cake, it would be an acceptable glycemic index. So it's like, which is it?
Well, even going back to your example about rice and Asian cultures. I mean, like in Japan, I love sushi. You're eating protein with a carbohydrate, and I don't see a lot of people getting fat on eating sushi. I mean, so I think people say that kind of stuff because they're trying to push their agenda in their own, their carnivore thing, whatever kicked it on at the time, carnivore, paleo, whatever they're doing, and that's and I know he did that for a while, and he got great results from it. He got jacked and ripped, but they know what that is. People tell me that, my immediate reaction is no. It wasn't the carnivore diet that did it, or it wasn't the paleo diet. It was the fact that you reduced your calories below your maintenance level.
Yes. And what did you eliminate?
Yes. Yeah, that's why. And that's how I lost the weight. I'm on the paleo diet, and I did it. I initially did it because I drank the Kool-Aid, and I bought into the story, or the arguments. And later on, I sort of realized maybe it's sort of BS, because you look at like the vegan or the vegetarian side, and they're saying all the same stuff that the carnivore and the paleo guys are saying. They're just reversing the materials they're building off of, right?
Exactly.
So, and then I realized it's like, you lost all that weight. You didn't lose it because you went on a particular diet. You lost it because you eliminated carbohydrates and grains from your diet, believing that was a bad thing. But really all you did is you eliminated those calories.
Yes.
So I reduced my caloric, I created a caloric deficit, and that's why I lost all the weight. And that's why I can still keep it off, because I'm active enough that I have a deficit, or at least at a maintenance level where I don't gain weight or lose weight.
Yes. And same with people, they lose weight so easily when they go on a plant-based diet because whole plant foods are calorically sparse. If you're eating like these designer, vegan foods and stuff like that, these processed foods, you're gonna be putting away calories, man. It's easy to be a junk food vegan, but if you're eating rice and spinach and beans and these high fiber, low calorie foods, you're going to be able to eat a lot of that crap and lose weight because it's so calorically sparse. Again, what have you done? You found a way to easily reduce your calories while still staying satiated. Right. So, that's the thing. You're not starving all the time because you're eating all this bulk, this fiber that's filling you up, but it's at a low calorie. It's a low caloric expense, and it drives me nuts. Like I had so many people that would, always be like, oh, I got to get back on keto. It's like, well, what do you like about the keto diet? I'd always ask them. They said, well, when I cut out all those carbohydrates, the brain fog goes away and I feel better. I'm like, what are you cutting out? And it's always the same shit. It's always junk food. It's always cupcakes and cookies and pizza and donuts and stuff like that. I've never had somebody tell me that, I cut out those spinach salads and those mixed berries and man, I just feel so much better.
Whenever I eat an apple, I feel horrible.
Yeah. It's like, no, you eliminated junk food. Of course you're going to feel better. You cut out all the junk, and if that's what takes you to do it, then right on. That's certainly better than eating the standard American diet, but don't demonize, plant foods because they got carbohydrates in them when, somebody's going to argue and tell you that a bowl of mixed berries is unhealthy because it's fruit and fruit sugar. It's like, give me a fucking break.
Yeah, that's just fucking bullshit. It's nonsense.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's nonsense. It's like eating a bowl of berries is not bad for you. It'd probably be better for you than most
everybody
things.
Probably should eat a bowl of berries every day, for health purposes.
Antioxidants.
Yes.
I mean, I throw a handful of blueberries in my oatmeal every day.
Yeah.
Antioxidants. It works. It works great. Yeah. I put, and that's the thing is you could take these things, you can make them taste good. I found, I can't remember it off the top of my head, but I found like this brown sugar substitute on Amazon that my daughter found, and we tried it, and it tastes awesome, and it's 0 calorie, and it's all natural. And I throw that in my oatmeal, and I smash up some almonds, and I throw that in, and some blueberries, and maybe a banana or whatever. And it's like, double serving of oatmeal. I do like 80 dry grams, and it tastes awesome. And I have that with like a cup of egg whites and a couple whole eggs, and for my first meal, and it's a great meal, and it keeps me, satiated.
Well, a lot of high quality nutrients, and yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I eat that. It's the first thing I eat after I train. And
I think if people focus more on nutrient quality, that would be the biggest thing right there. Just focus on the higher the nutrient quality of the foods you're eating, the better off you're going to be. It's that simple.
It is. It's just choices. It's just like push yourself away from the cupcakes and eat something else. Eat a piece of fruit. But I mean, just saying, like, and the thing too, I would say for the average Joe, hopefully listening to my podcast, when you compete, don't worry about dropping weight and all that nonsense. I've done that. I think we've all done that. Have competed. Have been doing this long enough. It's a pain in the ass, and it's a hassle, and it's stressful, and it's no fun. And you probably be better off just eat enough to make yourself feel good that you're recovering, and when you compete, just compete at your natural weight, whatever that is.
Get healthy, and whatever that walking around weight is, just stay there.
Yeah.
Like I used to see it in powerlifting too. I've never competed in jiu-jitsu, and I don't really plan to, but with powerlifting, man, I had a lot of years competing in powerlifting and kettlebell sport. Man, you'd see these people doing these insane weight cuts, and it's like, I thought we started powerlifting to get bigger and stronger, and everybody's talking about how do I lose weight? How do I lose weight? It's like, unless you're going for like an all-time world record, or like maybe your first elite total or something like that, you haven't earned the right to cut weight. You know, go up a weight class, get bigger, get stronger. This is powerlifting, you know?
Right. Right. But yeah, but that's exactly it. It's the same thing I think for jiu-jitsu. I mean, for the average person who's just competing for fun, you know, a hobbyist, amateur, weekend warrior competitor, competes a couple times a year, just compete at your natural weight. Don't worry about
Be
that.
healthy. Don't cut weight and be exhausted and tired and set yourself up for
Yeah.
injury and just not feeling good,
It's just, again, it goes back to your why. Why are you doing it?
Yeah.
If you're competing to test yourself, just go test yourself. Have fun.
Exactly.
What else could we go over with that? With I think we've hit all the points of recovery.
In a nutshell, recovery is not going overboard with your training, right? Finding a manageable intensity and volume of training that you can recover from. To borrow Settledge's quote about, do as much as you can and still recover from. Our training should enhance our jiu-jitsu. It should not take away from it. Same with jiu-jitsu. Make sure that we're doing the right volumes and the right intensities with our jiu-jitsu. Nutrition, make sure we're eating high quality, nutrient dense diets. Doesn't matter how you want to eat or macros, whatever. Just focus on getting high quality, nutrient dense foods while staying adequately, properly hydrated. Sleep, consistent, regular, good sleep, and then exploring recovery measures, things that help us de-stress, things that help the body recover. And these would be the things that fall outside of, you've got things like recovery workouts and lower intensity type of training you could do to help stimulate recovery. If you're all beat up, rather than take a day and just say, hey, I'm going to lay down on the couch, go out for a walk for 30 minutes, do some stretching, do some yoga, things like that. But then let's also explore the things that are easily accessible to us, things that we can do as far as like contrast baths, ice baths, contrast showers, heat, massage, maybe a massage gun, foam roller, just anything that we can do to help improve blood flow and tissue health. Those should be explored. And then also practices like yoga and meditation and breathing and things like that. These are all things that can be done outside of the gym that are done to enhance recovery. And really that's it in a nutshell, man. I mean, you've got training, you've got nutrition, you've got sleep, and then you've got stress management and tissue health practices, and finding your right balance. And it's so hard to blanketly say everybody should do this, because not everybody should do that. Not everybody needs the same things. Some people can train a little bit harder more frequently, even older guys, because they've built that capacity. Somebody who's just starting training, like in their late 30s, early 40s, mid 40s, they might not be able to train 5-6 days a week. They might have to build up, to a certain level. So making sure that ultimately, whatever you do, you have to have the ability to recover from it. That is what's going to dictate your training volume, your intensity, your training frequency, and such.
Yeah. And I think the only thing that popped in my head while we were having this discussion at the very end is the idea of that even when you do strength training for jiu-jitsu or whatever, you should not walk out of that workout feeling smashed.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, you should not. You should actually feel better than you walked in.
You should feel, feel amped up. You should feel stimulated. You should feel like, you should almost feel like you want to go train.
Right. It's just, and the whole purpose of doing it is to keep yourself in one piece and to hopefully prevent injury and keep your GPP up and your strength and
bulletproof in the body, man.
That's it. Well, Scott, another excellent conversation. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, this is great. Yeah. I really enjoyed it, dude. Thank you.
And you changed, let's see, you're still on Facebook at Scott Shetler, and then you changed your Instagram to @SShetlerFitness.
Yep. And then I still got my gym Instagram, which is EPTS Gym.
There you go. Yes. And you and then your training information is still Scott at EPTSgym.com.
Yep. Yeah, that's my email. Okay. And that's also my my website is EPTSgym.com. And of course that links to everything. I'm actually also working on my personal website, scottshetler.com. But that should be online soon. But yeah, if they go to my website, they can get access to all my, really, I'm mostly active on Instagram. So
you put up a lot of great stuff on Instagram. Looking forward to Wednesday's post.
Yeah, man. Get that max effort upper body posting for you. So
we'll get that going. But yeah, you gave me a lot to lot of homework and lots of things to think about too. It was a great conversation. I
Well,
thank you for coming
thanks,
back.
man, and thanks for keeping to do these shows. I really I try to listen to them as much as I can. You've got some great guests on here, and I just love just love the content and how it applies to the average Joe, man.
Guy,
I mean,
yeah.
that's we're not all training for ADCC and world champion stuff. It's like championships and stuff. It's like this is our daily training's like brushing our teeth, man. You know, I mean, and it's like something we do daily, and it's nice hearing from people in that same regard because it's information that applies to us.
Absolutely, it's real. It's not like it's attainable, and it's something that you can relate to. Yeah,
I mean, it's fun to go listen to Gordon, but it's like we're not Gordon,
Nope, not even close. But anyway, Scott, awesome. You got to have to come back to figure out something else to talk about. And
absolutely, man. And I mean, if you get any questions, from people that listen to the shows and stuff like that, those are things that we could address too. So
absolutely. Yeah. If anybody has any questions, you can shoot them off to me on my Instagram at Average Joe Jiu-Jitsu Podcast, or even my other one, Craig Cordy, my personal. You can also leave comments on the YouTube channel. Press like and subscribe, and I've never said that before, but I just did. And if you can do that, it helps us out, and keep doing this kind of stuff. We appreciate it. And but yeah, if you have any questions, shoot them out there, and and if Scott doesn't see them, I'll forward them to Scott, and Scott can answer them, and we can go from there.
Sounds good, man.
All right. Okay, have a great night. Thanks again, man.
Thank you.
All right.